My brother.
My brother. How are you, man?
Good seeing you, brother.
Good seeing you. Good seeing you. How's your day? How was your day?
Good day. Good day.
Busy day? I know you work
Long
some
day.
crazy hours, man.
Yes, sir.
Isn't things crazy right now with all this coronavirus and being locked up?
Man, I'm so thankful to be working.
I'm thankful to be working too, that, I'm able to work from home. I know you are too, but you got to get out and go all over the place. So, I do keep you in prayer.
Yes, sir.
But I ain't gonna lie, I'm ready for my kids to go back to school, man. This is a struggle for me, trying to do homeschool with them. My goodness, it makes me have a different appreciation for teachers more and more. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about where you grew up, Darrell?
Oh, man. Some call it the boot.
The boot?
Yeah, but Louisiana.
Louisiana, yeah.
A little small town, very small.
I lived in Louisiana growing up.
Yeah. I went back to recently and no growth.
Yeah.
No growth, little small town, one restaurant. It's amazing to come from that small
Did you eat there
town.
when you went back?
Ate a little bit.
A little bit?
A little bit.
Yeah, that's funny. So, Louisiana. So, I grew up mostly in Alvin, but we moved to Mississippi. And we, being poor as we were, we would go anywhere we could live for rent free for a lot of my childhood. I remember we lived down at the bottom of, it was like a big lake, and we were living in a trailer that didn't even have electricity, and we'd have to go up the hill to my aunt's house to take showers and to cook food, and every now and then they would let us run an extension cord down to the trailer. We also grew up in Louisiana, Batesville, lived in a motel, went to school there. So, we kind of went all over the place. And even as a kid, my grandmother would take us in her little red Cougar, sometimes during the summer, and would take us to my real dad's house. And I say real dad because I got 3 men in my life that I've called dad. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that later on. But I lived in Virginia. We've lived in Louisiana. We lived in Mississippi, lived all over Houston, just all over the place, man.
Speaking about the mobile homes, I remember having to put buckets because whenever it rained, oh man, it leaked everywhere. It leaked everywhere.
Yeah, it did. So, tell me, Darrell, who would you say was the biggest influence in your life?
By far, my mom.
Your mama. I love your mama, man.
By far, I got a lot of spankings.
Oh yeah.
Whoopings.
She ain't never spanked me yet.
Yeah. Not yet.
No, not with her hands, but with her words.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
Biggest influence in my life. I remember one story she told me, man. She kind of told me, she always broke stuff down for me. Yeah. She told me it's like sometimes you have people that it's not a better than or greater than, but it's a difference.
Yeah.
And what a lot of times people do, they choose not to come up to where you're at, so they try to bring you down.
Try to bring you down.
They try to bring you down. So she always told me
You've told me about that
be
before.
that eagle and take the high road.
Yeah, you are an eagle, brother. You are an eagle. Well, I would say the greatest influence in my life for me was Charlie Goodson. And we're going to talk a little bit about our testimonies at the end of this, but to make a long story short, Charlie took a chance on me and loved me when nobody else would. Or could, for that matter, because I was a bad kid. He used to pick up me and my brother. He used to, at the trailer park that we lived in, and bring us to church, me and Jason, Emmanuel, and a girl named Christy.
So how did y'all meet? How did you and Mr. Charlie meet?
So I don't remember how we met. I just remember he taking us home from church one day, so we didn't have a ride, And I don't even know how we got to church. I think we came with Emmanuel one time, but he just took a liking to me and my brother, and he'd done so many things for us, even through my rebellious years, all my times in prison. He kept all the letters. He still has them. Wow. Every now and then I'll go to his jewelry store, and he'll pull out the letters and say, "You remember this?" And so he's a big influence in my life, and I'll talk more about him when we get going down the road. But also my Uncle Bobby.
Okay.
I remember growing up thinking, that my Uncle Bobby was rich. I know now he wasn't, but he had a great job. He put his family first. He always worked hard. I looked at him and the way they lived as something special. They had nice clothes, they had nice mobile home, they had nice vehicles, and they were respected. And that's how he influenced my life in so many ways, because he was the one that would come to let my mama borrow $20 till payday, or buy her some cigarettes, or he'd go and pay the electric bill so we could have electricity in the middle of the summer. So yeah, he influenced my life as well. So talk to me a little bit about Mama.
Oh, Mama.
Yeah, tell me a little something about her.
My mom, she might seem strict, and but she says what she means. She means what she says, and she's when I say full of love, she's full of love, and she hadn't met a person that she didn't love and care about, and she instilled those values in me, and it was amazing watching her grow up with 3 boys, and then a daughter came along, and she provided. We didn't have a lot of stuff, but we had a house full of love.
Yeah.
A house full of love, and
so you and I were connected way before you knew, and I knew we were connected, because your mama and your brother Hertha worked at KFC, with my cousin Joseph many years ago, and we were just teenagers. And also your mama worked at ceramic place here in town with my mom. So I knew your mom knew me, and I think our moms knew each other, but you and I never made that connection until the great flood, until it was time, right? Yeah. So that's pretty awesome. But one of the things that I absolutely love about your mama is how, first of all, she lets me call her mama. She reminds me a lot of my own mother, that she was everybody's mom. It didn't matter who you are, what color you were, if you were hungry, if you needed a place to sleep, my mama was the place to go to. My friends, we'd always crash out there. We'd raid the refrigerator and eat up all the food in the house, and we'd go out. And you know, your mom reminds me so much of that. And she was everybody's mom. Yeah, we
would have dance parties, you know, and everybody loved just coming to the house. And we didn't have anything. That was the amazing part to me. We didn't have what everybody else had. You know, we had KFC, so we had chicken.
Always had chicken.
Always had chicken and hot wings. And
we did too, because my cousin would bring it to us.
Yep. So we always had that. And yeah, my mom was an amazing person. Amazing person.
I love your mom so much. One of the things that I love specifically about your mother is she'll look at me, she'll say, "Okay, son, now I'm going to talk to you like a son and not my pastor."
Yes.
So when she does that, I know she's fixing to drop the hammer or tell me something serious. And she always says things in love. And your mom always has this level of high regard and respect for me as a pastor. And I feel like it should be the other way around.
Yeah, she'll tell me, if I say T.O., if I say Tim, she's like, "No, it's Pastor Tim."
Yeah, I know.
Every time.
I love that. Because I know I'm a pastor, but still, you know, we were friends before this, best friends before this. So when you call me pastor, it's just kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I know I'm the pastor, but you're my brother and my best friend. So you call me what you want. Just don't call me late for dinner, bro. So would you say that, well, one of the things also about my mom that I learned that was very influential in my life was my mom was a giver, just like your mom. She would give her last food, she would give her last meal, anything she had at home, and somebody needed it, she was giving it out. And I learned that growing up, that even though we were poor, financially poor, that I knew I could give and that it would come back, because I seen through all these years, even though, you know, I grew up a Jehovah's Witness and a Mormon. So,
wow.
Yeah, so I was, not only was I a little confused, but I knew at an early age when my mama gave something, it always came back. God always provided for her. So, yeah, that was pretty amazing. So, would you say that you grew up rich, or would you say you grew up poor?
Well, if you'd asked me those questions years ago, I would have just focused on the poor. I would have just focused on the poor. But over time and as a transformation in my life, if I changed and got closer to the Lord, I would say I grew up rich. Now I see it. I used to always think that my mom was, everybody else had the best mom, because their mom allowed them to do whatever they wanted to do. Whatever they wanted to do. And I was like, man. And so, but now I look back and I see that what my mom taught me, oh man, she was equipping me to be rich, to have patience.
I would say both. financially we was poor, but I would say I was rich in love because of my mom. And although there was 5 of us in our family, obviously my brother died in 2005, Jason, but there was 5 of us growing up, so it was hard for her to give that individual attention. So yes, we were financially poor, and it was hard being financially poor, but my mom did the best she could, and I love her for that. She showed me a lot of things, but I would say I was more rich in love. I would never say back then, if you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have, like you, I would have just focused on the poor. So tell me about the struggles that you had growing up financially poor.
Oh man, where do you start?
I know there's so many stories.
I remember the food stamps, the different colors, the blue and the green, and taking the food stamps, taking the dollar bills, and going and buying juicy fruit. It was always juicy fruit.
Juicy fruit.
25-cent gum, and getting the change, and different stuff, and buying me some Hot Wheels, and it was tough. It was tough. I remember a girl told me once, she was like, "What can you do? What can you do for me?" Like, and so that hurt.
Yeah.
That hurt. And so, and then watching everybody else had Nikes and Jordans, and one year I remember getting some Jordache.
Jordache.
I thought I was.
We got our first pair of brand new shoes that I can remember was McGregor shoes, and they had the tongue on them things were like this big. And man, I'm telling you, if the wind would have blew hard enough, I would have took off and flew. Man, those things were so huge, and I was so embarrassed. I hated them.
So we went to our mall was Wieners.
Yeah, you remember Wieners?
Wieners.
That was in the old Kroger's.
Yes, I would get the Elise. And my brothers, here's how, when you're talking about my mom, here's what I think extra special about my mom. We had a great relationship. Yeah. My brothers would, sometimes they would want the more expensive shoes. Yeah. And I would get the cheaper ones.
Right.
And so they would always, even
rightfully
things like
so,
that.
Kind of, because you're the youngest.
Yeah.
And
so the middle.
Or the middle, you're right.
So they would always tease me, call me the golden child. He's buttering up, he's kissing up, and all kind of different stuff. So it was tough.
I remember the food stamps. That was hard on us in the trailer park. We lived in just about every trailer park in Alvin. And one of the things that my mom used to have us do is she'd give me and my 2 brothers each a $1 food stamp and tell us to go into that little red store over there by Stevenson. It's white now. But we'd go in there and we'd buy 1 Fireball for a nickel.
That's a lot of change.
That's a lot of change. And the guy, I forgot the guy's name, he was an Indian guy, but he would give us the change, and he knew what we were doing, and we'd get all the change, and we'd take it back out to the car, and then my mama would walk right in after us and buy cigarettes. And so finally, this guy was like, "Look, just tell your mama she can buy anything she wants with these food stamps." And I thought to myself, I was thinking, I ain't gonna tell her that because we ain't gonna get no food. They'll be in there buying toilet paper and soap and all kinds of stuff, cigarettes and beer. And that's exactly what ended up happening, And I know you probably remember the first of the month.
Oh, look forward to it.
Yes, because that's when the food stamps came in. And that's back when they would send the food stamp dollars, and they would put them in your mailbox.
Booklets.
Little booklets. So if you weren't there, or your mama wasn't there to get the food stamps out, the lady that lived next door would reach into your mailbox and get yours, and you just got jacked for the whole month. And ain't nothing you could do about it because there was no way to track it. Now they do the, what is it called, the EBT, something on the card. And look, I'm not making light of people at all being on food stamps. Had it not been for food stamps as a kid, many a times I would have said we probably wouldn't have eaten. So it's important, and I think it's a part of our society that we are able to do that. And I'm proud as an American to say that we can help people like me and like you when we were growing up, So
thinking about that, that's what I look at it. I look back at it now, and I would tell anybody that having them struggles like I did, and like your income doesn't determine your outcome.
No.
By no means. Whether it's trailer park,
that's tweetable.
whether it's trailer park, whether it's anything like that, it's a lot inside those homes. It's what's on the inside and not what's on the outside. So and
we lived in some bad trailers, bro.
Yes.
I'm telling you. That's pretty good. So we had some. One of the other stories that I remember as far as growing up poor is my Uncle Dennis. That's back when Kroger's used to be next to Wiener's over there in the old shopping center. And he would go back there in his car, and he'd get in the dumpster, and he'd load up his car with everything from bread to pickles to anything that was expired, you know, not meat and stuff like that, but, you know, sweets and chips, and he'd load up the trunk of his car, and he'd bring it to us. And that was like, man, we hit the heyday, bro. I mean, we made it big, and he would share it. But we grew up, there was sometimes 13 people in my family with my aunts and uncles all living in one 2-bedroom trailer.
Wow.
And we slept on floors and roaches.
We call them
God.
pallets.
Yeah.
My mom, we called them
We
pallets.
didn't get pallets. We got a little corner of a floor and a blanket, and lucky to get a pillow off a couch. Yeah, and oh my gosh, Darrell, the roaches were so bad. Disgusting, man. We used to go out before we even got on the bus. Me and my brothers would empty out our backpack. It was so embarrassing.
Yeah, I remember that day. You make sure you had to zip your bag,
bags,
all that different stuff.
Nothing's more embarrassing than to have a kid sitting at lunch and open up your lunchbox and roach come crawling out.
Well, it wasn't my lunchbox, but it was.
Yeah.
I had a few incidents.
Yeah, right. Well, we were on free lunch, and even when I got into high school, we was on free lunch, and we had 3 cafeterias at Alvin High School, and I would hit all of them. And if I went to the C cafeteria and the lady didn't punch my meal ticket, oh, they just got jacked, bro, because I was going to the next cafeteria. Doubling up, getting another meal. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I'd sell them to my cousins or whoever and get cigarettes and stuff like that. So, yeah, I had a little game going there.
Yeah. The underground.
The underground. Yeah, I used to love the underground. Yeah, that's awesome, man. We have so many similarities growing up. So tell me, Darrell, when you were growing up, did you experience any kind of racism or segregation?
Well, I'll touch on racism. I would say I would have to say I did. Hopefully, it didn't affect me too much, but I would have to say I did. And mostly, it was in sports. I can't brag on a lot of things, but basketball, I can brag about that. I was always good at basketball. It came easy, and I was always better than everybody else. I was always better than them.
I know even the times you come to our house for parties, you would always hold back, or you'd play with your left hand or something.
And yeah, because people always say, "Oh, he's trying to show off. He's trying to show off." And it came easy. And there was many years where I would score 25 points, 30 points. In the next game, I'd be on the bench, wouldn't even play. You know, and the guys that I'm playing against,
and the white guys would be out there playing.
They would say, "Man, I don't understand why I'm out here and you're sitting down." You know, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, and as far as segregation, that happened a lot. It happened a lot. Just mostly seeing the places where everybody else went, but I couldn't go.
Yeah.
You know, and every once in a while they would take me along for a day, but at times I know they were helping, but at that time, at a young age, it kind of made me wonder.
Right.
Made me see what I was missing.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you don't know what you're missing till you
don't know what you got until it's missing. Yeah.
And so, I get a little bit of both.
Yeah. So when I grew up, the N-word was thrown around just about every trailer park I grew up in, and it was common. I said it, my brothers said it, my family said it, and even then I knew it wasn't right. You know, it just felt dirty in a sense. But it was just so common, like, to call somebody that. Didn't matter if you were white or black. It was just the terminology that we used growing up in that time, the slang. And even when I went to prison, you know, with all the black guys that would tell me, you know, we're going to rape you, we're going to kill you, you're going to have to do certain things, so give us commissary. And they didn't. You know, my testimony, God protected me from all that. But so I had developed this. I don't want to say hatred, but this just kind of like a check against black people for all these years because of that. And so I prayed a lot of that away. And I look at you and I say, look at you, God. Look how awesome you are.
And I think it goes both ways. Because I remember, you know, I've been to prison too. And those guys, they think of, they think of all the hard times that they had and they see that as an opportunity to I guess pounce, you know, to like pounce, and so yeah, there's a lot of division, a lot of segregation.
So let's talk about something that's a little hard to talk about for both of us. I mean, we've had these conversations at my house in the driveway time privately, with me, you, and Eric at times, and oftentimes by ourselves. But tell me about your father and your relationship with your father.
That was tough growing up. I would go to my grandma's house, and went like 3 times, and he never showed up.
Yeah.
And she showed me nothing but love. You know, I got to play with my cousins, and years went by, time went by. I talked to him maybe 3 times. He promised me some shoes because of basketball. I told him how good I was, and never got those shoes.
Still waiting on them?
Still waiting on them. And over time, I wouldn't say I was angry. Hurt and disappointed, crushed me. Crushed. I was crushed. I didn't understand. And I thought it was me. Like, what did I do? Why wouldn't you want to at least try to visit me? And so 40 years goes by, 40 years. And then I get a phone call that my grandma, my dad's mom, is turning 102. So I'm going to go see her in Louisiana. And I said, hopefully he shows up.
Yeah.
He showed up, got down there. He stepped out of the truck when I got out, and I looked at him. I was like, he kind of cool, kind of looked like me.
Yeah.
Kind of walked like me.
I saw the pictures,
And so he got out. I told him who I was. He told me who he was. And we hugged, and we just talked about family. We just talked about stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't ask any questions. Now, years ago, any other time, that's why I think the timing was perfect. Any other
Before
time,
you was walking with the Lord, it probably would have been a big fight.
Yeah, I would have asked him all kind of questions.
Yeah.
I would have been angry.
Which would have probably
You know?
further kept y'all separated.
But the amazing part was that that sticks out to me, and that's why God's so good. I told him I was proud of him.
Yeah.
I told him I was proud of him, and he asked me why. And I said, because after all this time, you could have easily said, what's the point?
What's the point?
This guy's gonna curse me out.
Yep.
This guy's gonna make me look bad in front of my family. What's the point of him showing up? So I thanked him.
That was huge, bro.
Yeah, that was a big step. I said,
Which shows your character and the type of person that you are, to be able to forgive and not even drag up the past, even though you have the right, you know, to sit there and say, I'm gonna choose this route instead. I'm gonna try to be a bridge builder instead of a bridge destroyer. And you built a bridge for what little bit of relationship y'all had, and haven't even brought up the past.
that was a hard drive. Me and my brother were driving on that road, and I was telling him that it wasn't about me. I still have questions. I still have questions, but that wasn't the time for the questions.
It wasn't.
It wasn't the time for the questions. And he told me, he said, son, I'm proud of you. That's when I told him, no, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
And he cried, and got to spend some time with my grandma. So
That's good. I mentioned earlier that I kept called 3 people dad. So my real dad, Alan, I called him dad. My stepdad, I called him daddy, because I grew up with him as my stepdad, probably since I was about 2 and a half. And then Charlie Goodson, he's the one I call dad. I call him dad. You know, I had an estranged relationship with my biological father. He lived in Virginia, and for many years I held this bitterness, and this anger was built up in me because I felt like he didn't want us, and I felt like he didn't want nothing to do with us, because my mom had told me that he abandoned us when my brother was in the hospital, and my uncle told me that isn't how it happened. You know, that my mom met my stepdad while my real dad was in Virginia working, trying to get something, a home and a good job for my mom, me, and my brother. And when he came back to get her, she wouldn't go. So that changed my perspective on my dad. So we've built a relationship now. We're still kind of distant, but I know he loves me and I love him. But what I love most about the relationship with my dad now is the relationship he has with my daughter, Sarah. They text back and forth, they talk. She calls him Popo. And I think it's amazing, you know. And as far as my stepdad, you know, I know Benny was your stepdad.
Daddy-O.
Daddy-O. I call him Daddy-O.
Daddy-O.
He just looks at me like I'm crazy. You know, like, how do you know about Daddy-O? And I was like, Darrell's told me everything.
And that's when I talk about, he's an amazing man.
He's amazing.
Never once he came in our lives, 3 boys.
Yeah.
Never once did he ever make me feel like I wasn't his.
Yeah.
Got me. I mean, when I went to jail, he would pay money to get me out. Yep. He never. Awesome.
Yeah. I love Benny. He's such an awesome man. Gentle spirit. But I'm telling you, them hands he's got, I wouldn't want to make him angry.
Man, him and his brothers, they would at
Donald
barbecues.
Keller, his brother Donald. I know his brother.
They would stir coals with their hands.
Yeah, that's
powerful.
But my stepdad, and I love him, he was just a different guy. He was just focused on different things growing up. So I didn't feel like I ever got to have that deep relationship with him. And I didn't really understand what a real father was until I met Charlie Goodson. And he came in and he just loved me for whatever reason. And I asked him years later, I said, Charlie, how come you never gave up on me? And he said, oh, trust me. There was times, but God wouldn't let me because I was a wild kid. And Charlie never quit. As a matter of fact, he was the only one that really wrote me when I went to prison. My real dad wrote me a few times, but Charlie consistently wrote me. He still has the letters I wrote him when I was 17, 18, and 19 from prison. And every now and then, as of late as of a few months ago, he's like, hey, you remember this letter? And he'll pull the letter out and read it. And he's got all the letters. And the Bible that they sent me when I was 19 on Dieball unit, I still have.
That's faithful.
He was faithful.
That's faithful.
And it wasn't just that he was faithful to me. No matter what I did, he wouldn't leave me. He wouldn't forsake me. He used to take me and my brother Jason, which he actually prayed with me and Jason to ask Jesus to be our Savior in the van driving home to the trailer park one night. And whenever my brother was killed, and I called him and told him, the first thing he said, well, do you remember when Jason prayed the prayer of salvation? And I said, yes, I do. And he used to take me and my brother when he owned Dairyland, and he would take us and we'd clean up around his jewelry store, we'd clean up around the restaurant, and he'd feed us the McGee burger. I don't know if you ever had one of those.
Never had
Pastor Bob McGee,
the
McGee burger. I think they still have it. You need to go try it. And then he would always give us money to go to church camp. And I loved going to church camp. But he just, to me, he was a father. To me, he was a dad looking out for his sons. He took a liking to me and he just never quit. Matter of fact, when I got out of prison, he took me down to his brother's car dealership and bought me a 1997 Chevy Cavalier, 4-door. Yeah. And I don't know how much we paid for it, but he bought me the car, and then he took me down, put insurance on it, and filled the car up with gas and gave me a little bit of spending money. So he has been, to me, an example of what a father is supposed to be. And that's what has allowed me to live my life the way that I'm living my life now. So you spent time in prison. Tell me about it.
Oh, man. Going back to that part about the racism and so just running wild, running with the wrong crew. Just running wild, running with the wrong crew. And I could easily say right now that it was because of race.
Yeah.
I was running with the wrong crew. The guys, they would ask me, why are you with those guys? Why are you hanging with you? Nothing like them. And so, but there was a burglary of a building.
Yeah.
A restaurant got broken into. And it was like, yeah, we got evidence that you did it. I'm like, there's no possible way. Right? So we're at a party one night, and everybody's there. Some things came up missing. Nobody broke into anything, but then that turned into a burglary of a habitation. Right? So when I was young, and so some numbers got thrown at me, and I'm like, okay, I might as well just say I did it before I get a lot of years. So went to prison for burglary of a habitation, and
it's crazy.
Yeah, crazy. 2 years.
2 years.
2 years, and day for day.
Day for day.
Day for day.
I know it's a hard time.
Children's. I went to Roach unit. Oh man, rough.
Yeah.
Rough. It was rough, and you get to see how it's a whole different world in there. A lot of people have no clue. It's a whole different world. You're told when to go to bed, when to get up, when to eat,
when to shower. The lack of privacy.
The TV.
At the TV, yes.
Oh,
The biggest fights
biggest
that I
fights.
seen was over the television.
Or the dominoes?
And dominoes. I see some crazy stuff with them dominoes, man.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I was in prison too. And not trying to say I lived a great life, bro. Thank God I never went to prison for everything I ever did, the crimes that I committed. But I actually got arrested and went to jail because of some burglary, stolen credit cards that I didn't do. But the guy that did it, I'm not going to mention his name, when Officer Hamrick pulled us out and we were standing, you know Hamrick?
Yes, I do, very
Yep,
well.
very well. We were standing there at the car and he told me, he said, I know you didn't do it. And I said, yeah, I did. And he said, no, you didn't. These aren't your credit cards. But the guy that was driving was a good kid, man. And he was just with the wrong people. And he was crying and I couldn't let him go to jail for doing something stupid. So I said I did it. So I ended up with all my charges. They tried to give me 22 years aggravated.
Wow.
And I said, well, that ain't gonna happen. So I ended up getting in a fight. I got beat up by the guards. I threatened to sue them. And the next thing I know, the district attorney is coming into the cafeteria at Brazoria County and they're saying, hey, if you don't sue us, we'll give you time served. But we can't drop the credit card charges. Oh. So I actually went to prison for the thing that I didn't do, which then they tried to give me 8 years. I said, whoever it was spent $70 on a credit card. I'm not giving you 8 years of my life for $70.
That sounds like extreme loyalty.
Yeah, it was. I was loyal. I stayed loyal.
Loyal.
Even now, I'm a loyal person. And the people that are close to me, one of the things that I demand is loyalty. Not that I'm anybody special, but I know the type of loyalty that I give out. So if you want to be in my bubble, in my circle, that's what I expect.
It's a requirement.
Yeah, what you've met those, by and far, you have.
I've never really, I'm pretty sure we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I've never met anybody that that pretty much brought to the table the same loyalty and commitment and faithfulness that I try to bring into everything. And so when that happened a long time ago, I saw it.
It was like 2013.
Oh man, I saw it happening. And it's forged by fire, brother.
Yeah, amen. So forged by fire. So I ended up signing for a 5-year sentence, and I did 3 years on a 5-year sentence and got out and never went back. And that's why I struggle with people who keep going back to prison and going back and going back. Well, I just can't make it. I just can't make it. And I try to explain to them, look, I had everything stacked against me. I was poor. I was, the way I grew up, my dad wasn't involved in my life. Just everything that could possibly go wrong in a person's life, if you could even justify acting out and getting in gangs and doing the things I did, I had it. But it was still no excuse. And so I struggle when people keep going back, and I still show grace with them, but I just keep telling them, look, there's no reason other than God for me to be where I'm at right now, in the position I'm at. As a pastor of a church, man, if you could see my rap sheet, people would look at me right now. Yeah.
You know, we're sitting at the restaurant, I think Habanero.
No, it was that new one. It wasn't Habaneros. What is the new one? Juanita's.
And we met one of your friends from a long time ago.
From a long time ago.
Yeah, and he was telling me about some of the stuff. And when you said that you was a pastor,
he laughed.
Oh man.
He snickered, and I said, "But really, I am."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, you really are?" And I said, "Yeah." And remember? Yep. And then he said, "Well, what church are you a pastor at?" I said, "Light Christian Center." And I always tell people when they look at me and I tell them I'm a pastor, the first thing they do is they look at all my tattoos, and I say, "Yeah, they let me preach, man. You can come sit on the front row with me." We are really a church of come as you are.
Yes.
We don't judge anybody, and God, the Holy Spirit's going to judge that. And we just want you to come.
Yeah. After Pastor Paul giving me that key, oh man.
Yeah.
I needed trust.
There's no reason for you and I to even be where we're at here right now. So tell me a little bit about that key you keep talking about, the key that Pastor Paul gave you when you came to Light Christian Center.
Yeah, I had no trust. That's what the Lord knew my heart. I needed somebody to trust me. Yeah. And the hardest part about changing is even when you started making that change, you got a lot on your back.
You do.
A lot of baggage carrying around, and that's what I needed. I needed trust.
Yep.
I had changed my actions. I had stopped hanging with the wrong crowd. I had changed a lot of actions, but I needed someone to take a chance.
Take a chance.
To open a door for me.
Yep.
And it was just, he said, oh, just thinking about Bud. He was like, oh, here's the key, Bud.
Here's a key, Bud.
I said, key to the church? To the church. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to let the Lord down. I'm not going to let him down.
No.
And from that day, him giving me that, and oh man, we got to spend a lot of time together, Awesome.
Pastor Paul he's such an amazing man, where he would take people and give people opportunities like you and I, that the world had pretty much said there's no
done.
hope.
Yeah, they're done.
They're done. And he would call and give us positions and responsibilities and make us feel like we're special, or make us feel like we're loved. You know, he gave you a physical key. He gave me a spiritual key. He started letting me teach men's group. Then he started letting me teach on Wednesday night. And he would tell me things, you know, one day in my ignorance, talking about race, I was explaining when we was out in that sanctuary out in the entryway, because the church had flooded. So we were having church in the entryway. And I was pounding this sermon in about Jesus and talking about him. And I said, yeah, and you're going to probably find me crazy, but Jesus was a black man. And I don't know where I got that, Darrell. I have no idea. And somebody convinced me that Jesus was black. And so afterwards, he come me up to the side and he said, hey, Bud. And you know that, hey, Bud,
yeah.
you know. And I said, yeah, Pastor, what's going on? He said, you know, Jesus was a Jew, right? And I was like, yeah. Jews are not black. And I was like, oh my gosh, Pastor, what did I do? And he just laughed, and he just loved me through it. And even
did he build you up?
He built me up.
Oh, man.
He never tore me down. He always would build me up in love. And even my first sermon on a Wednesday night, I kept telling him, okay, I'm ready, Pastor. I'm ready.
Put me in, Coach.
Put me in, Coach, right? And I preached this sermon for an hour and a half driving home from work. I was fired up, and I get in front of the crowd. It wasn't probably about 40 people. It's before our baptistry church flooded, obviously, and my family was there, my aunts, my Emily, and I was ready to go. And I was talking so fast. My 45-minute sermon lasted for 12 minutes. And I looked over at Pastor Paul, and I just shook my head, and I said, Pastor, I'm sorry, but I'm done. And he just started laughing, and I'm just sitting there just with my tail tucked between my legs, licking my wounds, just broken, like, oh my gosh. And I expected him to say, yeah, you know, this is why boys don't do men's job. And you know what he said? He said, well, Bud, Billy Graham's first sermon was 8 minutes, so you got him by 4. Just built me up to this, like, he could have tore me down in front of my family and my friends, and he didn't do it. And he just kept giving me chance after chance after chance. And
look at you now.
Look at me now, you know, just because of one man giving me a chance. But we left Light Christian Center. When people asked me, there was a few years where we were gone, and we actually went to Heights Baptist for a while. But the reason we left was because of the speaking in tongues. Darrell, I had no clue what a tongue was. You know, I didn't even know what a spiritual language was at the time. And we had just been newly married, and we're here at Light Christian Center. We're on the back row, me and Emily, and this lady, I don't know if she was from Africa or she just dressed like she was from Africa, but she went to screaming, bro, in tongues, just going crazy. And Emily grabbed my arm like, you know, this devil was fixing to come out of this woman, and Darrell, and then she hit the ground, and she started kicking chairs everywhere, all over the place, and it scared the bejesus out of me, bro. I'm telling you, we ran out of this church so fast, and I didn't understand it. I understand it now.
Yes.
Being where I'm at. I have a prayer language. I pray in tongues every single day. I encourage the congregation, the members of my church, to pray in tongues, but we didn't understand it at the time. So we were gone for a while. But even during that time I was gone, I was still in contact with Charlie, because I was having Bible studies on the job site. People were getting saved. So I was still doing what I was supposed to be doing. But long story short, Sarah was born. And so I told Emily, I said, look, we haven't been to church in probably 7 months, and I just feel empty. I'm going to go back to Light Christian Center. I know the people there. and I'm just going to go back. And I come walking in these doors, and the first person I see is Charlie Goodson. And he says, Timmy, my boy, I've been praying you would come back. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, right. You know, you're just saying that because I'm here. And he looked at me and said, can you preach on Wednesday? Just like that.
Wow.
And I was